I'd have to say the royal wolf. The way it sits in the water. Oh. A little bit of a wasp issue right now. Alright, what's going on, guys? My name is Scotty, and I am the owner and operator of Wildfly. And today what I want to do is do a little Q&A video. Just about a month or two ago, I put out a social media post and asked you guys to just ask me some questions, anything of your interest or anything that you wanted to know about me in Wildfly. So I'm finally getting around to it now. I wanted to do it earlier, but I had a lot going on with school and just didn't come around to it. But I'm here now. I'm going to be doing it, and I'm excited to kind of dive into these questions. But I want to first preface it that just so you guys know, I'm not like a pro fly fisherman. Like, I don't know everything about fly fishing. So everything that I'm going to answer or tell you guys is either my knowledge or just like my opinion, my personal opinion. So if you guys don't agree with my opinion, that's totally fine because it's my opinion. But if there's something that I'm saying that's wrong, definitely let me know in the comments or just send me a message if I have something wrong. But yeah, so let's just dive into it. I have these in no specific order. They're all just arranged randomly, and I got some from Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. But I'll just kind of say the question and say who asked it. But all right, so let's start out. The first question is from Ed Russell, however you say your last name. Sorry. It says, I understand some or all of you are in school. What are you studying, and what do you plan on doing after graduation? And so I'm in school at Appalachian State University. I'm a sophomore right now. I just finished, actually, so I'm now going to be a junior. But what I'm studying right now is currently business management, and then I have a minor in media studies, which has to do with anything media, video production, just a lot of we work a lot with the Adobe suite. So that's a really cool minor. And so what I want to do after graduation is I want to create content or create videos. I would love to do something in the marketing spectrum, and ideally the end goal would be to run Wildfly or some sort of business by myself, or not by myself, but run my own business. And so I hope to get to that point, but right now I'm going through school, learning what I can, learning from experiences, not only in classes, but just everything you do in college. So that's been going really well. So that's what I plan to do on after graduation. All right, and then the second one is how did you get the idea of making videos / films of fly fishing? And I'll kind of tell, to answer this, I'll kind of tell how I got into fly fishing, and then got into filming or video production, I guess. But yeah, so I started fly fishing when I was in 8th grade, and my uncle took me and my cousin Adam, who you've definitely seen before in videos, and we went up to the Davidson River. And I was a huge fisherman when I was growing up, but I never had tried fly fishing. My mom had always pushed it towards me to do it, and I just kind of pushed it aside, and just because I was so into the bass fishing. But anyways, we went up when I was in 8th grade, went up to the mountains in early morning, and went to the Davidson River. I was learning how to cast, my cousin and I, on the side of the road. We were just kind of learning how to cast. And I remember cars driving by and everything, and my uncle, while he would set up, he'd come over and help me, kind of teach me how to cast and everything. But I had no idea what I was doing. So we went out that day, and I had these little hip waders on. I was fishing like an ant with an ancient rod, but and I, like I said, I really had no idea what I was doing. I was just kind of watching my uncle and doing what he was doing, or trying to do what he was doing. But anyways, as the day went on, we didn't catch anything that day. My uncle caught 2 fish though, and when he did catch those 2 fish, it was crazy. When I went over there and saw him actually net the fish and everything, we got to take a closer look. It was just beautiful, and I have no words to describe that feeling. And I'm sure most of you guys, when you first see someone catch a fish on a fly rod in real life, it's just so cool. So there's really no way, to explain how I was feeling. But after that, I thought it was so cool, and I started getting really into fly fishing with my cousins. They're all around my age, and they are the ones who kind of helped to start Wildfly. But as as the years went along, I started to get really into it, and I think it was around freshman or sophomore year, we when video kind of entered the arena, I guess to say. So whenever we would get ready and go on a fishing trip, the night before we'd usually sleep over at either my cousin's or my house, and we'd always watch YouTube videos, or we'd watch videos like the old Patagonia videos and just get really excited. That's kind of how we got stoked to go fish. And I'd always kind of enjoyed, or really had a passion for the outdoor content. I'd always seen that on GoPro was a huge thing, and I always thought it was so cool, and I always wanted to create my own, but just didn't have the resources to do so. But I think it was one specific time when my dad took my cousin David and I, and we went fishing, and he filmed us. My dad filmed us on his little smartphone, and we got a bunch of video of us fishing and catching some fish. So I was super excited to put together a video, because it's the first little bit of footage that I had. So we did that. We put a little video together on Windows Movie Maker. It was so bad, but at the time, the whole process of making it was so cool, and putting clips where you're putting clips here, putting clips there, and slowing down clips or whatever. But yeah, super basic stuff to start, and that's kind of how I got the idea of oh, this is fun. This is a cool process of making a film. And as the years went on, I acquired a really cheap action camera, which we used a little bit, and that's where I first started using it, and first started making the fishing videos, which you can see one of our first videos was on Wilson Creek in North Carolina. That was just with this cheap little action camera, but it was so much fun to use. And then eventually got a GoPro, which was the coolest thing ever. I absolutely beat that thing to death and used it so much. But that's kind of where we got the idea, or I got the idea of filming, and I kind of took it from there and ran with it. The whole film process. My cousins always would love coming and going on the trip, but they didn't quite get into the whole video thing as much as I did personally. But another thing why I started wanting to make these films or make these videos is so that people started to enjoy our content and what we were making. And mainly it was content that was based in North Carolina and streams that people were used to fishing, because when I would go on YouTube, it was kind of hard to find higher quality films of our area. There was just there's nothing really, just some cheap GoPro videos, or low quality GoPro videos, or just your basic GoPro videos, which is fine. And but I thought we could do a little bit more than that. So that's it's my little spiel. It's a little long, but that's kind of where the idea of filming came in. But yeah, all right. And that was from Real Girl on the Fly from Instagram. All right, and then this next one says, how big are you trying to take Wildfly, as in big outdoor video production company, or just keep it small, or keep it to small local outfitters and companies? From J Ha TH42 in Snapchat. So this is a good question, because I think personally what I'm really trying to do with this is keep this to local businesses and local companies. If I had an opportunity to go do a big video or a big shoot production or whatever for say a big company like Orvis or something like that, yeah, I'd be all for it. But I think right now where my mind's at is supporting local companies and smaller companies, which I can create a better relationship with and see more of an impact with me helping them, versus making a video for a big company and then you don't really see the aftermath of that, or you don't really see how that video affects them. But yeah, and then so how big are you trying to take Wildfly and that part of it? I don't know how big it's going to get. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but my thing right now is I just want to keep producing content for you guys that you enjoy, and I'm a huge advocate on putting out free content. I think all the videos that we make are going to be free. I don't expect to sell any of our films, just because I think you guys viewing it is enough of a payment for me or whatever. And I don't want to limit certain people to having to pay for a film to be able to see it. But yeah, that's my preference on that. I hope I hope Wildfly continues to grow, and I hope we can spread a positive message about just going out and having fun and getting out there with your friends and enjoying like what we have. You only have one time here. Like, you might as well enjoy it. You might as well take risks and get out there and explore new places. So that's what we're all about. And obviously the conservation part of it is huge, and we did the Our Water film, so we hope to keep spreading that message and hopefully make an impact on you guys and on the world. So yeah, so the next one is, how'd you come up with the name Wildfly, from Gavin McDowell on Snapchat. So I wish there was like a good story for this, but I think one time I was going over to hang out with my cousins at their house, and it ended up, I think my cousin Adam had just randomly come up with the name. So I honestly don't know how the name came about, but when I came over to his house one time, we were hanging out, and he showed me on his computer, he had this little like picture with like Wildfly over it, and it was like a picture of the Blue Ridge Mountains. He's like, dude, we should name like a little company like Wildfly, and we're all like, oh, that's so cool, blah blah blah. And so that's how we got the name, and it kind of just stuck, and it just started as just a little Instagram page where we would post our pictures of our fishing trips, which I think is so cool that there's so many of those out there nowadays. And I think if people just don't worry about what other people are doing, and just if you enjoy posting and you enjoy sharing your content, don't worry about what other people think about it. Just do that, and as long as that makes you happy. So that's kind of how the name came about and everything. And then this one's from Emerson Faith on Instagram. How did you get into cinematography? So as I kind of told you how I got into the whole filming process, or got into like video at all, was through like fly fishing. But I think really in my senior year of high school to like now, I got a DSLR my senior year of high school. I really like started to understand like how a camera works then, and it was then when my passion like for filmmaking grew, because I started to understand shutter speed. I started to understand aperture and whatnot, and ISO. Like, I didn't know what those were before, and like learning all that kind of took it to the next level, because I really understood like what I was doing with the camera. And even now I keep learning. That's what's so cool. It's a constant learning thing. But I don't remember a specific like one moment that really like got my interest. I think I just started really getting into it, and it's obviously my passion for it's grown, and I hope to keep doing it, because it's a lot of fun to have a vision and have something, you have an idea of like a video you want to do, and then be able to put that into an actual video. And sometimes it doesn't always turn out how you thought it was going to turn out, but that can usually be like the best kind of video, because you might get something that you never expected, which is cool. So I hope to keep doing that, but I hope that answered that question. All right, so now some fishing related questions. What's your favorite setup to run on DH waters, from Philip on Snapchat? I think my favorite setup is pretty basic, but up top I would usually go with like a mop or something, and then drop. Well, it depends on what time you're fishing the DH. If you're fishing the DH like right away, right after they stock it, it's like early in the month, then I'm definitely going to go with like a mop up top and then like a squirmy below. And sometimes I'll even, below the squirmy, put a little nymph or put a little egg pattern or something. But anything flashy is like really good. But if I see like fish are rising, I will 100% tie on a dry fly and do a dry dropper, because seeing like DH fish hit a dry fly is really cool, and they just absolutely smack it. So that's a lot of fun. But there's a lot of different setups that you can throw, but that's probably my personal favorite. And then you can also put on, if it's later in the month, you can fish midges, and midges are really good when the fish start getting a little bit more particular with what they're going to eat. So that's probably my favorite little setup on DH. All right, and then from Jake Blank 40 on Instagram, he asked rainbows, browns, or brookies, and why. And I would definitely have to say brookies, because native brook trout in North Carolina are just absolutely beautiful and probably the best looking fish you can catch. And not only that, they are in the places that are like the most beautiful. They're the hardest to find. There's a wasp, and I'm just really hoping it doesn't come over here. But yeah, so brook trout are like definitely like the hardest to catch, and or maybe not the hardest to catch, but the hardest to find. So I think that's really fun when you hike these places and you go to these higher elevation streams, and you're down, you're on your knees, you're like stretching out to get these casts in these little holes, and out of nowhere you fish in these like bigger dries, and a little brook trout just smacks it. That's just like so cool to me. But yeah, that's what I would have to say for my favorite. Don't get me wrong, browns and rainbows are awesome to catch, and absolutely love catching browns and rainbows. But if I had to pick one, it's gonna be brook trout. But yeah, all right. And then, so he also asked 3 other questions from Jake Blank on Instagram. So I'll answer these really quick. Favorite dry fly pattern? I'd have to say the Royal Wolf. The way it sits in the water. Oh shoot! A little bit of a wasp issue right now. But yeah, so the Royal Wolf is probably my favorite dry fly pattern, just because the way it sits in the water and the way it's presented. I think it's like a beautiful fly, and I've had the most success with that one. So that's definitely my favorite. Favorite nymph, pheasant tail for sure. There's so many different variations of the pheasant tail that you can mess around with, and I think that's just such a go-to pattern, especially around the North Carolina region. DH waters, it'll kill it, and wild waters, it'll kill it. And you can mess around with how it looks. So that's really cool, and I love fishing a pheasant tail down below. And then his last question was best memory while fly fishing, and I'll try to keep this short because I know it can ramble. It's because of my ADD. But best memory while fly fishing was when I caught my first fish on a fly rod, and that was up in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, with this guy named John Udi. And my family, we'd gone on a weekend trip to Gatlinburg. I think that was the second year we'd done it, and that was probably a couple months after I'd been introduced to fly fishing. And I still hadn't caught my first fish on the fly rod, so I was really like itching to catch one. And I'd seen so many videos, and I was like, geez, why is it like so hard for me? But I think I was just getting unlucky. And when I would go, it was in the winter, and then this was finally like in the summer when I was able to go. But anyways, we were in the fly shop, and we met this guy named John Udi, and he's like, hey, we do like guided trips or whatnot, like you guys, if you're interested, like let me know. And so my mom and I kind of talked about it, and we're like, hey, we'd love to do that. So I'd never done a guided trip, and so we decided to do a half-day wade trip. And he was like, it's really warm around here, so we're gonna have to fish in like these smaller streams, catching smaller fish, but they're really wild and it's really cool. And I was like, okay, cool, like that's fine. I was like kind of bummed it was smaller fish, but because I didn't really understand it yet. But I was like, all right, let's do it. So we fished that day, and we hiked into the stream a little bit outside of Gatlinburg, and I just remember like how beautiful the stream was. It was the first time I'd fished for wild trout, and I'd fished like a little bit on the delayed harvest, a little bit on the Davidson, but I hadn't fished on like a small stream like that, so it was very new to me. But John, like throughout the day, was teaching me kind of how to cast in these smaller streams with a smaller rod and not get caught in the trees. So the majority of my day was me learning like the casting technique and everything. So a lot of times we'd be working on my cast, and I'd get a hit and I'd miss the fish, and I was pretty bummed, but there was nothing I could do. But finally my mom caught one towards the end, and I still hadn't caught one, so I was like excited for her, but I was still like, oh dang, like I wish I would have caught one. But we got to the last hole of the day, and John was like, all right, man, like you've learned like so much today. Let's see what you can do in this last hole. And he told me after, he was like really stressed out because I hadn't caught anything yet, but went up into that hole, kind of got down on my knees, put a cast in. I think it was like my first or second cast, and this beautiful wild rainbow came up and hit the dry fly I was fishing, and just set the hook, and that feeling just was insane. So after that, we got the fish. He didn't bring a net, so we just got it like that, grabbed it in the water. We got a quick picture and released it. But that was like one of the prettiest fish I've caught, and just such a cool experience. So that was definitely my favorite memory, and so that was, yeah. This guy needs to go. Oh, this wasp is killing me. Whatever. So yeah, that was probably my favorite memory, and I'm sure like most of you guys know, when you first catch your fish, it's really special, and so that was really special for me. But let's move on. From Dallas 29484, can you come to Arizona? Yeah, I would love to go to Arizona. I've been there a couple times to visit my grandparents and my aunt and uncle, but I've never fished out there. So I know like Flagstaff. I have a cousin who lives up there, and I've seen pictures and it's just like beautiful. So if I ever get a chance to, I will hit you up. All right, is it worth getting a drone for fishing / filming? From Brent7 from Instagram. So this is I feel like this is a common question I get. I get a lot of questions about like cameras and whatnot, but is it worth getting a drone for filming or fishing / fishing? And I really believe that if you're invested in, really creating content and really creating media, then yes, definitely get a drone. It's a really cool angle, and it's a really cool aspect to your. Oh. Alright guys, I just moved locations really quick in my backyard because there was like a whole wasp issue in there. But anyways, I'm just going to restart and go back over this question. Is it worth getting a drone for fishing / filming? And this is, like I was saying, something that like I get asked a lot. Like certain camera questions and about drones and everything. And my personal preference would be, if you're really like looking to get into filming and making videos like on a consistent basis, and that's something that you want to do, a drone would be a great idea. It's a great tool to have in your artillery to add a different angle, add something different. It's very powerful, but on the other hand, you really got to know what you're getting into, because with so many new regulations with the FAA, you got to know all those, and you got to know like where you can fly and like everything like that. So if you're gonna get a drone, like do your research, make sure like you get the right drone for you in your budget or whatever, and make sure like you're actually gonna use it, because I think a lot of people just get a drone because they think it's cool and they'll fly it up and they'll just fly it to kind of show off and show their friends, but then they won't actually like really use it. So make sure like if you're gonna get one, like you're gonna use it. But if you're looking to get like your first camera and you're deciding between either a camera or a drone, I would 100% go for a camera, because one, you can learn more about the camera and you can learn like what you're actually doing with that camera, versus just getting a drone and just getting all these aerial shots. Plus like the drone has a limited battery, so unless you have a ton of batteries, you're not gonna be able to fly it all day. But that's my 2 cents on that though. But yeah, I think if you're looking to get into filmmaking and you have the budget for it, and you think it's a good move, then go for it. It's because drones are really cool for sure. Where is your favorite place to trout fish and why? And I don't remember who this is from, but I'd have to go back to saying Porter's Creek, which is where I fished with John Udi, the first guided trip I ever did. I think that's my favorite stream because it's the first time I was introduced to wild trout fishing, and just seeing just like how the river's laid out is it's such a beautiful stream. There's so many like runs and pools and everything. It's a really cool stream, and the fact that you have to like hike back to it makes it even better. So that's probably my favorite one. Where are some good wild trout streams in the Boone area? From Harris Van on Snapchat. So this is a question I get a lot too. Like, hey, like where's a wild stream in Boone? Like, you go to App, like the streams, and frankly I don't know a lot of the wild streams in the area. But I'm not gonna spoil any wild streams. There's a few that are pretty like well known in the area, which I guess in Banner Elk you have your Elk River, which goes behind Lee's McCrae, and then there's certain streams off the Parkway that are good for wild trout. But my my biggest thing is, we're going out there, and anyone else you ask this question to, for the most part, you're going out there and you're trying to find these streams that no one's fished before. You're trying to find, people might have fished before, but you're trying to find these streams that are back there and in the country, and you're putting all this work in, you're looking on maps and stuff, and you finally find these streams that are really good and producing, and no one's out there. So you're not going to tell people, where these streams are. And sadly that's how it is, but if you think about it, you got to respect that, because we're putting in the work to find these streams, and because we want to get away from people, and that's sometimes just what you have to do. But if you are looking for an easy find for wild streams, off the parkway, just go look on your map or look on Google. It's really easy. You can see all these streams off the parkway and off these hikes, and you just got to go check them out. It's not for sure that all these streams are going to have fish in them, but for the most part they're going to have fish, because they're higher elevation streams, and if they're wide enough and they have deep enough pools, there's going to be fish in there. So my thing with this is just get out there, go try streams, go check it off your list. Go check out a stream. If you check it out and it doesn't have fish, then check it off the list. All right, not go back there. It doesn't have fish in it. But you'll find that certain streams that have fish, and then the certain ones that don't. And it's just one of those things. It's really rewarding, and it's a part of fly fishing, because you're going out on your own, finding these and whatnot. But what I can tell you is, go to your local fly shops. They can show you a map. They can help you, get to some of these streams. But then again, these guys aren't going to give you their go-to holes. That's just how it is. So you gotta respect that, and you gotta understand that. Maybe when you find a wild stream, you're not going to want to tell people. So that's my whole thing on that. And I hope you guys can understand where I'm coming from. All right, and then he also asked mirrorless or DSLR, and I don't really have a preference. I've used a mirrorless camera before, one of the Sonys. It was one of my buddies, but I don't know a whole lot the difference. That the picture that came out of the Sony was unreal, and I love that camera, and that's definitely what I want to get in the future. But I don't know a whole lot of the difference between the mirrorless and DSLR, so I don't want to answer that wrongly. But if you guys have something that about them that you want to let me know and make me aware of, that'd be great. Just leave it in the comments or send me a message or something. Alright, and then from Carter on Snapchat, he said, are you guys affiliated with the Fly Fishing Club at App State? Yes and no, because my freshman year I was pretty involved, and I actually got to meet a lot of my good buddies. You've seen Max, Austin, Nick, or both Nicks, I guess, Nick Featherson, Nick Whittick, and all those guys. I met all those guys who are now all guides at Due South. I met them through the Fly Fishing Club, which is really cool, and it's a really neat how it's set up. But this year I haven't really made the time to go to all the events and I'll go to all the meetings and everything. So, but if you are coming to App State, or you're an incoming student, I would 100% recommend you check it out, because it's just a bunch of guys and girls that are really into fly fishing and want you to be too. Even if you're not into fly fishing, they want you to check it out. So there's been people that come in, they're like, hey, I've never fished, I've never fly fished, I want to try it. And people are like, oh, heck yeah, we'll show you how to do it. It's a good club to meet people, especially when you're coming into college, you don't know anyone. Yeah, it's a good group of equal-minded people that enjoy fly fishing. So I recommend you joining, and I hope to get more involved next year. Alright, let's see what we got next. So this is from Conrad LM7 on Instagram. Which rod weights do you guys use for dries, nymphs, and streamers, and which fly rod company do you use? So fly rod company, I don't have one specific company that I use only, but probably my favorite is Orvis, and then also Reddington. Those are the two that I'm using right now. My favorite rod that I have, or that I've fished, is my Orvis Superfine Carbon. It's a 7.5 foot 4-weight, and that's what I take on little streams and everything. And that mixed with the Orvis HD trout line is it's just like butter. I mean, it thing casts like a beast, and you'll catch a 10-inch fish on it, and it just feels so big. But That's my favorite rod. I have the Reddington Crux in a 9-foot 4 weight. So those are like the rod weights that I use in the rod sizes. And then the first part of the question, what rod weights do you guys use for dries, nymphs, and streamers? And so for dries, if I'm on a little stream, I'll use my super fine carbon 7.5 foot 4 weight. If I had a 3 weight, I have fished a 3 weight, but 3 weights are really fun. But my super fine carbon is, it's so similar to a 3 weight that there's really no point in me getting a new rod for that. But that's my go-to for dries. And then obviously the Crux throws dries like a beast too. But that would be more in like a delayed harvest stream or a wider stream like the Watauga. And then the nymphs, the Crux, a 9-foot 4 weight, a 9-foot 5 weight's good for that. Anything from 4 to 6 weight are good rods to use for nymphs. And then also like streamers. I don't fish streamers too often, but I used to have an 8.5 foot 6 weight, and that was like my go-to. It was an LO bean rod, and that was my go-to for streamers and bigger bugs or bigger nymph rigs too. But now that I have the Crux 9.5 foot 4 weight, that's probably gonna be my rod for nymphs. And then if I end up throwing streamers, it's a little bit harder to throw the streamers with a 9-foot 4 weight, but it can be done, and it's not like I fish streamers too often. But if I get really into it, which I want to, I would love to get like an 8 weight. But since I don't fish streamers like too often, I don't really have like a streamer rod, if that makes sense. But if I did, it would be an 8 weight. Alright, would you guys want to do a float trip down the Caney Fork River or Elk River in Tennessee? From Aaron M. Walters. Yep, Aaron M. Walters from Instagram. So yeah, I would love to. I mean, if you have a boat and you'd want to take us, that'd be awesome. Like this summer, just hit me up in the DMs, slide in the DMs, and I'd be down, because that sounds like a lot of fun. This is from Trent Day _18 on Instagram, and he asked, how do you think climate change will impact trout populations and habitat in the Appalachian region? But what I do know is, just seeing in the past couple of years how it's been like warmer longer, it's been warmer than normal. That's definitely hurt trout populations. My freshman year of college, the water and the temperature in Boone overall in the fall was a lot warmer than it had been, and that really limited where we could fish, because the streams that were usually good that we would fish didn't have as much water in them, and they didn't hold trout, so we weren't able to fish those. And I think it killed off a lot of trout, unfortunately. So I do think that with warming climates and everything, it's gonna impact the trout population in a negative way, unfortunately, which is also gonna hurt the habitat of the river and everything. Because I think the first thing that people look at are if trout are able to maintain their populations in these streams, and if not, that really is an indication that the river itself is not very healthy. So I hope to educate myself a little bit more on this issue, just because it's obviously very important. I don't think it's like too late though to fix this. So I definitely want to educate myself a little bit more on this, and hopefully that could be a potential film in the future or something like that. Hello. So I just got a couple more left, and it says, if someone gave you a free fly fishing trip anywhere in the world, where would you go? From Patrick McCarthy 98 on Instagram. I think there's like two answers to this question for me personally, because there's saltwater fly fishing and then there's freshwater fly fishing, obviously. And last summer I was introduced to the saltwater fly fishing with redfish down in Charleston and Debbie Do, South Carolina, and absolutely loved it. I didn't think I was gonna like it how I did. I didn't even catch a redfish. I had so many opportunities to, just didn't have the stars didn't align, and it didn't happen, unfortunately. But for saltwater, it'd have to be Belize, fishing for bonefish, tarpon, and permit. That's just that's up there and on the bucket list. And if I was able to do that, that would definitely be it. And then freshwater, I would have to say Patagonia. I think it's such a badass place, and there's just so much wild, untouched wilderness there that is just insane. And so I think if I was able to do a trip there, I would do that for sure. There's one of my favorite like all-time videos is it's not even like that good of a video, but it's just these guys that took a trip out there and they took some GoPro video, and they absolutely just like crushed it out there, and they have all these like huge fish they caught in these like crazy looking streams, and it just looks so cool. So I think I would definitely do that. And then Josh O'Keefe, you should try and fish some parts of Florida over summer. All right. Yeah, I would love to. I'm gonna be working up in Boone this summer and doing a lot. But if I get a chance to even if it's not this summer, but like next summer, I would absolutely love to do that. Florida, it's just insane. So, yeah. All right, and then this is the last one. How do you determine where to fish in the water column, like top water, the middle, or the bottom? From Reyes Bishop on Instagram. And this is a good question because this relates a lot to when people ask like, hey, what fly are you using, or what's the fly that's going to catch me fish? And I think a lot of people get it wrong, that it's not always the fly itself, it's more your fly's depth in the water. And for the most part, fish are going to be in the lower lower part of the water column, and that's when you're nymphing. If you're mainly nymphing, fish are going to be in the bottom, they're going to be eaten, and they're going to be facing upstream, obviously. So getting your flies down to the bottom part of the water column, you're going to have the most likelihood, or most chance for success. I think if fish are rising for dries, and you can see that, then they're going to be in the top of the water column, and that's when obviously to fish a dry fly, or to fish an emerger. And I think emergers are something that people don't fish as much anymore, but can be very effective. It's just like a lost art, unfortunately. And I've dabbled with it a little bit, but I know Patrick from Due South has told me that there's certain guys that can do it, and they absolutely crush it. And then in the middle, you'll sometimes get fish in the middle of the water column, but that's mainly in like slower dragging on pools or whatnot. And in that case, even if you get your flies at the bottom, those fish are sometimes going to dive down there and get it. But yeah, I think the main thing, just focus on wear polarized sunglasses so you can see through the water, and make sure you're below them. Make sure you're downstream or you're across from stream where they can't see you. And if you can see some fish before you cast, adjust before you make your first cast, because that first cast into that hole or that pool is crucial. And if you spook them, if you don't have the right depth in the water column, then you're probably gonna spook that fish, and he's not gonna eat, unfortunately. But yeah, so that's what I would say about that question. Some people might have a different opinion, but that's what I think personally, and what I've had success with. But yeah, so that's all the questions that I have today, or I got and answered today. If you guys want to see another Q&A or something like this, let me know. I think it's a cool way for you guys to get to know me a little bit better. And be ready for an announcement next coming week. I'll have something about the summer. Pretty excited about something I'm working on. And but yeah, until then, comment, let me know what you guys think about this, and we'll see you later.